So let's start our lesson. Madungog ko ninyo, kung di mo madungog, out lang sa mukha dito, balik mo dayon ha, tapos check niyo kung madungog ko ninyo. While the others, so kung madungog na ko ninyo daan, pwede na mo dili mag-out. So I will be sharing my screen. Wait. Kita ninyo? Kita wala? Kita ninyo ang screen? Okay, so that's our next topic, Article 1193. It's actually obligation with a period. Now, last time we talked about obligation with a condition or conditional obligation. So the obligation really depends upon the happening of the condition then. The happening or non-happening of the condition. It really depends upon the condition whether the obligation will subsist or the obligation will extinguish, depending upon whether the condition is suspensive or resolutory. Parehang gapon sa period, no? Period, napoy resolutory period and napoy suspensive period. So, but then again, this time, in difference sa conditional obligation, this one, it will really happen. Unlike sa condition, it may or may not happen, right? So this one, you just have to wait for the period to arrive, and then it really depends upon the kind of period, whether it is suspensive period or resolutory period, and the obligation will either subsist or the existing obligation will either be extinguished. So it really depends upon the kind of period there. So to distinguish, last time we talked about condition as a future and uncertain event. This time we talk about period, which is a future and certain event. Oh, take note of that, ha? So it really is a matter of period na that it will surely come. Unlike obligation, it may or may not come. So for example, I give you 10,000 pesos if the mother of Juan dies. What is that? Conditional obligation or obligation with a period? Anybody? Anybody? What does that connote? Is it conditional obligation or obligation with a period? Ano? Any other answer? Will the death of the mother will surely come or not? That's another question. Oh, wala na minaw? Yeah, because obligation with period, because I give you 10,000 pesos if the mother of Juan dies. So, is it an obligation with a period or conditional obligation? It's obligation with a period. Why? Because, Helen? Which is, what day? What day is that? So, will his mother die or will not? It will die. So, the death of a person will surely come, ha? It's wala lang nakabalo kanus abot, but then the death of a person will surely come. So, making it the obligation reliant on it, the obligation with a period. Take note of that, no? It's read Article 1193. Obligation for whose fulfillment a day certain has been fixed shall be demandable only when that day comes. Obligation with our resolutory period take effect at once. So nanagapo, no? Like I give you 5,000 pesos until until December 31, 2021. Inana ba? Fixed period yun siya. Last time until you pass the CPA board examination man to, but then it may or he may not pass, di ba? This one, the period will surely come. A day certain is understood to be that which must necessarily come, although it may not be known when. Mo example ani katong the death of a person. It may not be known when a person will die, but it will surely come, no? The person will really, any person can really die. If the certainty consists in whether the day will come or not, the obligation is conditional and it shall be regulated by the rules of the preceding section, which is the obligation with a conditional obligation. Itong discussed last time. So, obligation with a period is one whose effects or consequences are subjected in one way or another to the expiration or arrival of said period or term. Meaning period is a future uncertain event upon the arrival of which the obligation subject to it either arises or terminated. It is a day certain which must necessarily come, although it may not be known when. So, again, as I said, there are two kinds of period or term. Suspensive period, XD, and resolutory period in DM. You read the example. Another classification of periods according to source. Legal period when it is provided by law. Conventional period or voluntary when it is agreed by the parties. Judicial period when it is fixed by the court. And according to definiteness, definite period and indefinite period. In case of laws, Article 1194, deterioration or improvement of the thing before the arrival of the day certain, the rules in Article 1189 shall be observed. If we can recall, wala nato siya tapos eh. Wala nato siya tapos na discussion. But here is the recap, no? When there's an obligation to deliver, say, something like that, to deliver, and then, one period to deliver is to be delivered in the future, definite period in the future. Say, 30 days from now, I will deliver to you this car. But before the arrival of this 30 days period, kato last time, condition man to, it may or may not happen. This one, it will really arrive 30 days eh. Before the arrival of 30 days period, there may be three things that will happen to the subject matter of the obligation. It may be lost, it may deteriorate, and it may improve. So what are the rules in this loss, deterioration, and improvement? Number one, if the thing is lost without the fault of the debtor, if the thing is lost without the fault of the debtor, then the obligation is extinguished. If the thing is lost with the fault of the debtor, then he will pay damages. He will pay damages of the losses, no? Of the losses, because it is the fault of the debtor. So if you can recall, there was a question, when the thing is lost without the fault of the debtor, what could have caused the loss of the thing? Yun. When the thing is lost without the fault of the debtor, what could have caused the loss of the thing? Anybody? Answer? Wala siya sala. Pero nawala. Unsa kayo dahilan nga nawala? Ha? Ay, manaw ta. Tawag. Almira Konkon, are you there? April Manait, are you there? Wala mo sa Almira. Yes, April Manait, can you answer my question? If the thing is lost without the fault of the debtor, what could have caused the loss of the thing? Manait? If the thing is lost without the fault of the debtor, what could have caused the loss of the thing? Unsay dahilan nga nawala? Hmm? Mundang na tani, wala mo minaw. Ariel Ponto. Naduwag di mo question ako. Paparisig di. Sunod ako, pag grade ko, recitation sa inyo kaya di mo maminaw. Ariel Ponto. You there? Stilan. Stilan kayo. Wala kang tawag. Kunya na kabrito, wala pang itawag. Si Ariel Ponto sa. Ariel Ponto, paminawa. If the thing is lost without the fault of the debtor, what could have caused the loss of the thing? Doon ko mo wala. Kung sa kay dahilan nga nawala ang thing. Negligence, fault na lang sa dictator. Negligence mo day. Without the fault gani. Kung fault sa dictator, wala negligence, tagi siya fault nira. Pero kung wala siya fault, what would have caused the loss? Orsal, are you there, Orsal? Orsal. Yes, did you hear the question? Out daw sa niya balik. Pag out sa diya niya balik. Okay. Ilin Cabrito, it's your turn. Doon ko mo Ilin. The same question, if the thing is lost without the fault of the debtor, what could have caused the loss? Unsay dahilan? Unsa gani dahilan? Orsal, nadungog na ko nimo Orsal? Kusog na akong audio sa imo Orsal. Same lang yapon? Sige. Balikan ta ka. Maya ka na, Ellen. Pero, saan naman na? Ay na. Sige, hata ang question siya, Ellen. Ano ang kusog sa uban dili? What could have caused the loss? What is the reason for the loss? Flexipolong. Naka-flexipolong? Very good, flexipolong. That's the correct answer. Fortuitous event. What could have caused the loss is this fortuitous event because there's no fault there of the. Very good, flexipolong. Okay, let's continue again. So, mga to kanina second rule. Third rule is what could when the thing is deteriorates without the fault of the debtor, then the obligation is then the thing is the damages shall be borne by the creditor, no? Ma-absorb niya tanan ng creditor. If the thing is lost with if the thing deteriorates with the fault of the debtor, the creditor has two options. One is to take on the delivery, but then let the debtor pay the damages of the thing, no? So kung deteriorate. Second is i-cancel niya, rescind niya ang obligation and let the debtor pay the liability, the damages, tanan, pati interest obligations. Now the fifth rule is that when the thing improves, right? When the thing improves naturally, When a thing improves naturally, the improvements inure to the benefit of the creditor. When the thing improves with the expense of the debtor, the spend niya ang improvement, siya naggasto. Then he has no more rights than that of a usufructuary. Kung saan man yung usufructuary? Usufructuary is the one who enjoys, okay, the benefit of the contract of usufruct. A contract of usufruct is one which a person enjoys the use and possession of the thing belonging to another. Na kontrata, di ba? So, usufructuary. Ang usufructuary mo to ang nag-enjoy. Ang tag-iya sa butang mo to ang naked owner ang tawag sa iya. Naked owner. So, yun. So, yun ang last rule. So, 6 rules siya na. 1194. I-follow lang tong Article 1189. 1195. Anything paid or delivered before the arrival of the period, the obligor being unaware of the period or believing that the obligation has become due and demandable may be recovered with the fruits and interest. So, halimbawa, 1 year ni mo payable, tapos nagkamali ka, gibayaran ni mo 1 month. Nagbayad ka, kasi 10,000 ni mo utang, 1 year payable. Pagka 1 month na nagkamali ka, bayaran ni mo 10,000. Ma-demand ba ni mo ang bayad ni mo? The answer is yes, pwede, no? Like, demand mo na, kaya kung dili niya iuli ang imong ibayad, pwede ka mo charge sa iyahaw o ka ng fruits and interests sa iyang gibayad nimo by mistake. Take note ha, anything paid or delivered before the arrival of a period, the obligor being unaware of the period, so by mistake din siya, or believing that obligation has become due and demandable may be recovered with the fruits and interest. But of course, the debtor is presumed to be aware of the period. Whenever in an obligation a period is designated, it is presumed to have been established for the benefit of both the creditor and the debtor, unless from the tenor, the same, or other circumstances, it should appear that the period has been established in favor of one or of the other. So, pag mangutang ka, yan ay sabutan nga period 1 year, pabor na sa bayad, ang pabor na sa utang, pabor po na sa giutangan. While on the part of the debtor, pabor siya, kana siya period leeway within which to recoup his investment or assets in order to pay the liability within that particular 1 year period of time. Now, favor po sa creditor because by that period, naka-accumulate siya interest naman, isabot ko yung interest sana. So, cut off din mo na ang period to from 1 year to 6 months. So, iyang ma-earn nga interest is good only for 6 months. Kung dili cut off, so 1 year good nga interest sa iyang i-earn ana. So, para general rule the benefit of the period benefits both the creditor and the debtor. But when the debtor now will ask for extension of the period, the extension or whatever, maybe there is no period, parang kung naipit na siya, if granted the extension, then the extension or the period there benefit clearly the debtor there, no? Naano siya yung benefit na nakuha na kay high ganun siya extension, so he may get the benefit out of it. But then again, if the obligation does not fix a period but its nature and the circumstances, it can be inferred that the period was intended, the courts may fix the duration thereof. The courts shall also fix the duration of a period when it depends upon the will of the debtor. Like, I will pay you little by little, di ba? Remember mo to, I will pay you little by little. Gusto ka na? Dili na siya actually conditional obligation, but it is an obligation with a period. That particular situation, you have to go to the court and ask the court that the period shall be fixed, because definitely there is a period intended by the parties. Only that it is not clear, no? The court shall fix the period, the duration of a period. In every case, the court shall determine such period as may under the circumstances have been probably contemplated by the parties. Once fixed by the courts, the period cannot be changed by them. The debtor shall lose every right to make use of the period. So, ano siya? Article 1198 presupposes that the debtor now benefits the existence of the period here, no? But when can he lose the benefit of a period? So, if you lose the benefit of a period, the consequences there is that the other party, the debtor, the creditor, I mean, will now have the right to sue the debtor in court. No? Kaya kailangan ng period, kailangan siya mahangi yung period para dili siya ma-file kaso sa korte. But when you lose the benefit of a period, even after you plea for it, then the creditor has no more recourse but to file a case against the debtor in court na. So when can the court or when can the debtor lose the benefit of the period? In this case, the creditor can go to the court to file a case. Number one, when after the obligation has been contracted, he becomes insolvent unless he gives a guarantee or security for the debt. Insolvency means when at that point of time, certain point of time, when your assets are more than your liabilities are more than your assets, you are them to have been insolvent, no? Bisag unsaon nimo pambayad sa imong utang wa na yung kay kabayad kay basta ko ang imong utang ka sa imong assets, then you are insolvent. So if you are insolvent when you have contracted the obligation, so you lose the benefit of the period. So mag-file na diretso ang kaso sa sa imong unless makahatag ka og guarantee, security. Like mahatag ang title para magarantihan ang imong utang. Second, when he does not furnish to the creditor the guarantees or securities which he has promised. Na promise ka maghatag ang garantiyan, then wala di mo magidayon imong promise, then you will definitely lose the benefit of the period. When by his own acts he has impaired said guarantees or securities after their establishment, and will through a fortuitous event they disappear unless he immediately gives new ones equally satisfactory. So na impaired by his own negligence or by his own fault, na wala ang mga garantiya. When the debtor violates any undertaking in consideration of which the creditor agreed to the period. And last, when the debtor attempts to abscond. To abscond means to get out from the place where you usually are living. No? Wala ka na niya. Lesdeas ka na, that's to abscond. No? So let's go to alternative obligation. Alternative obligation, no? A person alternatively bound by different prestations shall completely perform one of them. The creditor cannot be compelled to receive part of one and part of the other undertaking. Kaya mga talaw examples sa alternative obligations. So, I give you mga prestations I give you a car or a cart or a carabao. Okay? Dahil po itong I give you a car, and a cart, and a carabao. Dahil lang siya ha. In that case, that and gani ang imuhang pang-connect sa mga prestation is a compound obligation, one where there are two or more prestations. No? Kung isa lang, I give you a car, that's simple obligation lang siya. No? And then kung daghan na, I give you a car or a cart or a carabao, I give you a car or cart and a carabao. So, ato ni classify conjunctive obligation, one where there are several prestations and all of them are due. Otong and, no? I give you a car and a cart and a carabao. So, conjunctive obligation na siya. What about distributive obligation? One where there are two or more of the prestations is due. I give you a car or a cart or a carabao. Ano siyang alternative obligation, no? Where several prestations are due but the performance of one is sufficient. The other one is, I give you a car and in substitution, I give you a carabao. This is now is a facultative obligation. One where only one prestation is due but the debtor may substitute another. So, muna ang alternative obligation is one. Okay, so, balik sa example. Okay? Para mahumataan dali lang man eh. Sample lang para malaga to. Paminawa ko niyo ha, paminaw mo sa ako ang example. Again, balikan to. I'll give you a car, or a cart, or a carabao. Kung kamo ba piliyon, unsa niyo piliyon? Car, cart, or carabao? Ha? Car. Car daw. Isa pa. Isa pa, kasi yung car, cart, carabao. Car niyo tanan? Ha? Car. Kasi yung cart. Si Joyce, cart mo? Oh, so car kasagaran. Okay, you may be correct there, but the thing is, what's my thing? What thing am I talking about? The thing is that it is the obligor who is given by right to choose the prestation. It is the obligor, no? It is the obligor. The right of choice belongs to the debtor. So the right of choice belong to the debtor. Article 1201, the choice shall produce no effect except from the time it has been communicated. Now take note of this ha. I'll give you a car, or a cart, or a carabao. So it's up to me, the obligor, whether to choose a car, or a cart, or a carabao. Because, simply put, kung unsay maka-benefit sa obligor, mo to iyang yatag, di ba? So maka-benefit siya ihatag niya ang cart kay pinakabarato, mo to iyang yatag. So it's really the choice now of the obligor. But siyempre kung practical po ang choice niya, kung wala na din ang cart, guba din ang cart, so din na pwede ang cart, no? Or hindi na siya pwede. So choice na po sa carabao na lang o car. Depende na. The debtor shall lose the right of choice when among the prestations whereby he is alternatively bound, only one is practicable. Again, the right of choice belong to the debtor. If through the creditor's acts, the debtor cannot make a choice according to the terms of the obligation, the latter may rescind the contract with damages. The rescission niya, no, kung dili siya like creditor's act, the latter means the debtor may rescind the contract with damages. So take note of this particular right of choice, ha. Right of choice of the debtor to select the prestation. So the creditor shall have the right to indemnify for damages when through the fault of the debtor all the things which are alternatively the object of the obligation has been lost or the compliance of the obligation has become impossible. The indemnity shall be fixed taking as a basis the value of the last thing which disappeared or that the service which last became impossible. Damages other than the value of the last thing of service may also be awarded. So this time, nasa indemnity for right kung ang pagka-loss sa prestation is through the fault of the debtor. Nawala tanan ang mga prestations, a cart, carabao, car, nawala, no? Tulo kabuk nawala. So unsa man iyang bayaran? Nagampo lang siya ang debtor nga ang pinaka-last na wala katong card kay pinaka-barato lang cart, no? Cart. Because that's the provision of the law. The value of the last thing which was lost through his fault shall be the basis of the damages to be awarded. Now, when the choice has become clear, no, on the part of the debtor, he has already selected that the cart shall be the one to be delivered. Take note that the obligation shall cease to become not alternative obligation, ha. Dili na siya na alternative obligation. Unsa na siya? It will now revert to a simple obligation. It is the obligation to deliver a cart na this time. Take note that the only thing to be done is for the obligor to inform the obligee of his choice of which prestation must have to be delivered among others, no? Kung saan ang gipilian niya, mo na iyang inform, mo na niya akong ipili sa mga. From then on, upon the knowledge of the obligee, the obligation shall cease to become alternative obligation. It now becomes a simple obligation. Take note of that very important principle of law. Now, the last time is when the choice has been expressly given to the creditor, the obligation shall cease to be alternative from the day when the selection has been communicated to the debtor. Until the responsibility of the debtor shall be governed by the following rules. If one of the things is lost through a fortuitous event, he shall perform the obligation by delivering that which the creditor should choose from among the remainder, or that which remains only if one only subsists. So kung nawala ang car because of fortuitous event, pili na lang ang fortuitous event, piling walay fault ang debtor ha, pili na lang ang creditor sa cart o carabao. If the loss of one of the things occurs through the fault of the debtor, nawala because of this fault, no, the creditor may claim any of those subsisting or the price of that which through the fault of the former has disappeared, with a right to damages. So kung piliyon niya itong nawala because of the fault of the debtor, piliyon niya to, pabayaran niya itong value ato plus damages, of course. If all the things are lost through the fault of the debtor, the choice by the creditor shall fall upon the price of any one of them, also with indemnity for damages. The same rules shall also be applied to obligations to do or not to do in case one, some, or all of the prestations should become impossible. So let's go to 1206. When only one prestation has been agreed upon, but the obligor may render another in substitution, take note, this now becomes a facultative obligation. The loss or deterioration of a thing intended as a substitute through the negligence of the obligor does not render him liable. But once the substitution has been made, the obligation is liable for the loss of the substitute on account of his delay. Take note of this facultative obligation. Basta na word ka substitute or substitution, facultative obligation na siya. Nato'y word ka or. Alternative gito siya, alternative obligation, or a car or a cart or a carabao. This one, I give you a car, or in substitution, I give you a carabao. So yun yung tenor sa mga obligations, no. Let's go to solidary or joint or solidary obligation. Joint and solidary obligation. Okay, basa niyo ang screen, joint and solidary obligation. Tanda niyo? Let's proceed with that joint and solidary obligation. Okay. I will just lecture this by giving you example, and then I will guide you through it, no? Okay. There are two or more obligors or two or more obligees, and then only one prestation. Isa lang, no? Isa lang ang prestation. But two or more obligors and two or more obligees. Necessarily, this one involves money. Kasagaran sa inaning ang mga obligation involves monetary obligation. So, example, A and B is obligated to pay C the sum of 10,000 pesos. Di ba? This is a joint obligation where A and B is obligated to pay C 10,000 pesos. Another example, A is obligated to pay B and C the sum of 10,000 pesos. This is another joint obligation where A is obligated to pay B and C the sum of 10,000 pesos. Now, when it says joint obligation, ang kanang total obligation niya, tungaon nila, like si A and B obligated to pay C 10,000 pesos. So, A is liable to pay C 5,000 pesos only. B is liable to pay C 5,000 pesos lang. Okay? So, how much can C collect from A? 5,000 pesos. How much can C collect from B? 5,000 pesos. How much can A and B pay to C? 10,000 pesos. How much can A pay to C? 5,000 pesos. How much can B pay to C? 5,000 pesos. You get me, guys? Muna ang sa joint obligation. Now, in the case of another one, A is liable to pay C and B and C 10,000 pesos. So, how much can A pay to B and C? 10,000 pesos. How much can A pay to C? 5,000 pesos. How much can A pay to B? 5,000 pesos. How much can A and B collect from B and C collect from A? 10,000 pesos. Thank you. Take note of that, ha? Now, another is A and B is obligated to pay C, D, and E. Tulo. Say C, D, and E sum of 120,000 pesos. 120. Abot na to 90,000 pesos. 90,000. A and B is obligated to pay C, D, and E sum of 90,000 pesos. So, 90. Kung tungaon nila ng 90, that's tag 400, 45,000 pesos si A and B, ani ha. So, joint obligation man eh. 45,000 pesos si A and B. So, how much can A pay to 45 divided by 3? Pay to C, D, and E. So, 45 divided by 3, that's 15,000 pesos each. How much can A pay to C? 15,000. How much can A pay to D? 15,000. How much can A pay to E? 15,000. Likewise, B can also pay C, D, and E 15,000 pesos each. Oh, paano nyo? Ay, imo na siyang i-multiply ng 15,000 kada isa, 30 mo na siya, 30 kay C, o imo i-add, no? Ang ihatag ni A o ni B, ihatag niya 30 kay C, 30 kay D, 30 kay E. Total amount of 90,000 po gyapon. So kita ninyo ang joint obligation. Oh, understand mo joint obligation? Makita ninyo ang iyang kwan. Do you understand my graphical illustration to this? Okay, so now talking about solidary obligation this time. Solidary obligation, dali lang na siya, dali lang sa determine. If I ask question on solidary obligation, the same example, no? Like A is liable to pay B and C 10,000 pesos. You just have to, kung tana ko ninyo sa inyo, you just have to answer the whole total amount. So, mayon ko, how much can A pay to B? Your answer will be 10,000 pesos. How much can A pay to C? Another answer is 10,000 pesos. How much can B collect from A? 10,000 pesos. How much can C collect from A? 10,000 pesos. Yan yung answer natin, no? Pinaka-last na example, A o B liable to pay C, D, and E 90,000 pesos. The same, may mo answer 90,000 pesos lang yun. How much can A pay to C and D? The answer is 90,000 pesos. How much can B pay to E? The answer is 90,000 pesos. How much can D and E collect from A and B? The answer is 90,000 pesos. 90,000. That would be your answer, ha? Nakuha ninyo answer? Yes, Ariel? You have question? Sa joint obligation, equal yun to sila. Depende sa agreement kung na-agreement. But then, kung wala agreement, the presumption is equal. That's a joint obligation. Pero sa solidary obligation, the whole amount ang ilang ibayad. I will illustrate, no? Illustrate na ako solidary obligation. Pasa itong example na to, si A o B liable to pay C, D, and E 90,000 pesos. Now, here's A paying 90,000 pesos to C. Di ba? Pag mahatag na si A kay C 90,000 pesos, ang obligation ni A o B is already extinguished. Wala na siya ibayro nun. Hatag na 90,000 pesos. Nana silang side. Nana kay C, D, o E karon ang side. Although, dito ko hatag kay C ang 90,000 pesos. Okay? Take note, si A ang nagbayad kay C 90,000 pesos. Okay, bayad na. Wala na sila obligation kay C, D, and E. But among themselves, among ni A at B, si B karon liable to pay kay A. Pila yung liability si B? Pila meron ni B kay A? This time, they have to share. Di mo? Joint obligation na sila. Although at first, kay solidary obligation man gibayaran ni A si C. So impas na ilang utang kay C, D, and E. But among A and B, na liability si B kay A. Pila? Remember, gibayaran ni A 90,000 pesos. Pero duha baya sila nakautang kay C, D, and E. So, pila bayaran ni B kay A? Ha? Pila? Yes, correct. Flexible long, 45,000 pesos. So, at least patas na sila. On the part naman kay C, D, and E, si C naka-receive sa 90,000 pesos. But, dili mo pa na kay iyaha lang, di ba? Sa ilahan ang tulo ni D, E, C, D, E. So, pila bayron ni C kay D o E? This time, joint obligation na ni siya. Pila bayron ni C kay D o E? Tag 30,000 pesos. Iulit niya tong 30,000 pesos dito. So, you know now the difference, no? Of obligations, solidary obligations, and joint obligation. Although, kung ato siyang tukion jud, na mga difference more than that, like sa mga terminology, kung yung joint obligation, na may mga terminology good ang mga joint obligation, no? Like, for example, sabi siya sa joint obligation. Words sa joint liability. Comunada, comodamente, pro rata, proportionately, we promise to pay, signed by two or more persons. Sa promissory note. And then, sa Solidary, na po yung mga wordings dito, no? Solidaria, solidarity, jointly and or severally, solidaria, in solidum, together and or separately, individually or collectively, juntos o separadamente. Ayan. Ng mga kinds of solidarity, passive solidarity, solidarity on the part of the debtors, where any one of them can be made liable to the fulfillment of the entire obligation. So it is the nature of a mutual guarantee. So active solidarity. Solidarity on the part of the creditors where any one of them can demand the fulfillment of the entire obligation. Its essential feature is that of mutual representation among the solidarity. Okay? Mixed solidarity. Solidarity on the part of the debtors and creditors where each of one of the kanina, itong example kanina, mixed solidarity ito ha. Si A and B are solidarily liable to pay C, D, and E. Mixed to. Solidarity on the part of the debtor, solidarity on the part of the creditor. So, ayun. Legal solidarity, according to source, no? Conventional solidarity, where solidarity is agreed upon by the parties, where solidarity is imposed by law, and legal solidarity. Real solidarity, where solidarity is imposed by the nature of the obligation. The law does not expressly indicate the cases where the liability is solidary because of the nature of the obligation. The opinion is offered that the cases contemplated are those in which the intent or purpose of the law is to have the obligation satisfied in full, but the law itself does not expressly require solidarity. Okay, read all the rest of the materials, guys, and I will have you responsible to study the materials given on your next quiz. Okay? So, any questions? Basta more or less, to ang explanation sa joint auxiliary obligation. Just read the rest of the materials to suit the proper examples given, no? Any more questions? Okay, raise your hands. No any questions? O na agreement, so depends sa agreement nila, what they follow. What they follow nila. Mamagay nila. Ang ratio, what they follow. Without agreement sa pila sila, equally divided. Presumption na. So, any more questions? Any more questions? Ellen? Nakaya pangunta na, Ellen? Orsal, nakaya pangunta na? Ano sa mga last na ako giyon sa inyo ha. So, 1 2 to 2. Oh. Ato coverage up to 12:30 ha, up to 12:30. So, after sa quiz, next meeting, mga last na period. 12:23 to 12:30 na. Alam mo to kanang sa divisible, indivisible o obligation o kanang obligation with a penal clause. Dali lang to, di na ta mag-quiz ato after. That explain na nako para ma-appeal sa coverage. In the meantime, para sa inyong quiz next meeting, up to 12 to 2. Ang inyong quiz. Okay? Okay na, okay na? Okay. Lead a prayer. Isa to si, comment to kanina, no? Isa to pray kanina? Sige. Sige, lead a prayer. Amen. So, goodbye class. See you on Wednesday. Good luck sa inyong exam. By the way, you have to provide your permits ha before patakon ta mo exam. So, as early as now, kung ano mo yung permit, just PM me. I-PM niyo yung permit. Dili lang ibutang dito sa kuha na ayaw dito sa JC. Kaya mag-flag sa JC. I-PM lang sa kuha. Ang yung permits, ato schedules, Monday man ta, no? Monday, Tuesday man ato schedule next week. So, Monday ta. Okay? So, by now, same time. Same time, 1 to 2. But then, 70 items, that's about 45 minutes lang na inyong quiz exam, ha? 45 minutes. 70 man ang required, 100 gani unta. 70 lang last time. I-follow na ako to 70 rin na kaya na. But they are requiring us to make 100 items. Well, anyway, so that's 45 minutes to finish, ha. So akong kwitahon, kada 10 items ng good 5 minutes. So if there are 50 items, that would be 50 items sa 5. Pila ka minutes na? 1 to 20. Ha? Ano ko? 5 minutes, that would be 25 minutes ang 50 items, di ba? 25 minutes ang 50 items. So plus 10, that's about 35 minutes. 35 minutes tanan ang 70 items supposedly kung ato ibase sa number sa quizzes nato per 10 items, no? So that's 35 minutes. So I'm only giving you sa leeway of 10 minutes. So 45 minutes for 70 items. At least kaya na ninyo na, right? Dali lang man na, tukpok lang. But pag study yun mo, para na may manser ang dako. Ha? Okay guys, so I will call your attention until Saturday or Sunday. Ha? Google form gyapon, the same, para sa quiz. Pero this time, the 70 items, anak kadaghan. Ha? Laban lang. So, I will be collecting your permits, i-PM sa ako, tapos, I will tell you na included na mo sa form na makatake og exam. Because if you will not give your permits sa ako, dili mo ma-include ito, dili mo ka-take. Sa pag-usahon yung hulat-hulat, tingala lang mo, dili mo abot ang form sa inyo, ay nga naman, gi-block taman mo, kaya wala man may permit. Okay? So, i-PM lang sa ko, and then I will tell you, included na mo. Sige. Okay? So, goodbye guys. See you on Wednesday for your quiz. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Yes. I will check them. Bye-bye.